see what state SCI means. We're going to kind of reverse this, give a little silence so Alex can set up, because Lois wants this recorded. When forgiveness. This poem takes on a whole different light after Lois's concern this morning, and I think you'll agree. It was written by Sean Harris, who is a prisoner at the SCI Cole Township, and he's serving a very long sentence for a crime committed in his youth. When does a person deserve forgiveness? Is it when he asks? Is it when he pleads? Is it when he bleeds emotions onto pages for all to read? Is it in his deeds, his atonements, achievements, or religious creed? Tell me, when does a person deserve forgiveness? Where is that bar, or the point, or the mark? Is it far? Is it near? Is it sincere from the heart? Is it fear that keeps them impaired in the dark, where we can neither talk nor be heard without tears tearing apart? When is forgiveness deserved? After the sentence is served? After repentance and penitence unpurged? After the politicians' votes merge, as if forgiveness is a mere word on a piece of paper, print, copy. I thought forgiveness was divine, an innate characteristic of humankind. I thought forgiveness was virtuous, sublime, and just, the safety measure to tether us in togetherness.
Thank you, Lenore. Beautifully read as always. So picture this. Each Tuesday at 1 o'clock, our journey begins with leaving our watches and cell phones in the car, making sure not to wear earrings or pants with metal buttons, and leaving behind notebooks and pens. The metal detector is extremely sensitive, hence the attention to clothing. No phones or Bluetooth watches allowed, no notebooks, as there is a concern that it is possible to embed drugs in the ink on the pages. However, we must bring our driver's licenses to check in. Without that, we will not get in, no exceptions. Upon entering, we use the restroom because we will not be able to do so again until we are out 3 hours later. Once we are all assembled in the inner waiting room, the one past the metal detector, the prison principal meets us and escorts us down a very long, narrow hall with large windows on either side. We hold up our arms to show the person behind the window our orange wristbands, then pass through another door into the courtyard. Barbed wire everywhere, guards leaning against the wall and chatting, inmates working on the landscaping. We arrive at another building and pass by the library on our way to the classroom. Because of the large windows, we can see the large collection of legal books. There are other books in the back of the library and computers all around. Finally, we arrive at the classroom where we meet the insiders. From day one, we are greeted with smiles, full eye contact, and handshakes. "How are you doing?" we are asked with a smile. There is a commanding presence in the room, one that says, "We will welcome you as fully as a human being can possibly be welcomed." Once we got to know one another, handshakes had been replaced with hugs, bear hugs. but prison rules put an end to that, and it was back to handshakes. Then we sit together around the table, alternating insider, outsider, insider, outsider. The insiders wear long brown jackets with the letters DOC written on the back. Having accomplished the journey to the physical interior of the prison, we begin the journey to the psychological and spiritual interior of our lives. Nothing is hidden. Right away, deeply personal stories are shared. None of the insiders claim that once upon a time, long ago, they did not commit whatever crimes got them into prison. They express remorse for past mistakes and look constantly for ways to make restitution. They share stories of horrendous childhood experiences. These include physical and emotional abuse and neglect, exposure to drugs and crime, police brutality, poverty, incarceration from a very young age, and the restricted housing unit, today's term for what was previously called solitary confinement or the hole. We also share our personal stories. I surprised myself by sharing some very sensitive things about my own difficult childhood. It was the uncanny level of emotional safety that was created by them that allowed the space for me and others to do so. This emotional safety derived from years of hard internal work that they obviously did and continue to do. We were not there to help them. We were all there to help one another. They shared their stories of transformation. For example, one person shared his experience in the restricted housing unit, particularly his last day of a 90-day experience in which he suffered a great deal of humiliation, being led around the courtyard on a leash by prison guards. He thought about this humiliation and concluded that he had brought it on himself by the behavior that led to his being sent to the restricted housing unit. Taking that responsibility for his experience was the beginning of his transformation, one that led to his now being part of a mentoring team within the prison. I marvel that such a miracle can result from the depths of hell. What is even more amazing is what these men have done to make the world a better place. First, they raise money to give away to charities. To date, they and other prisoners have given $197,000 to 53 local charities, local meaning Central Pennsylvania. And that includes $28,000 given to support prisoners and their families during COVID. Now, you might wonder where this money came from. Some of them have jobs within the prison. It is a well-known fact that prisoners are not paid anything near minimum wage for their work. And actually, when I wrote this, I didn't know what they were paid, but a couple of sessions later, the topic came up somehow. The entry-level job is around 30 cents an hour. The high-paying job is somewhere near 70 cents an hour. Yet some of the money for the charities comes from their earnings. Some comes from money families and friends gave to them. And some comes from fundraising events they organize in the prison from things like the sale of snacks. So much has been taken from them, literally and figuratively, and they are given so little. Common sense would dictate that they would hold on to what little they have. But that is not the way a generous heart works. In fact, You can hear an urgency to give as you listen to them discuss their work. It seems to be their life's mission. Their generosity extends to one another as well. They cook for each other, listen to each other in times of trouble, prevent newer prisoners from acting out and making the kinds of mistakes that might ruin their chances of parole, support others who are working on their legal cases, and visit one another in the infirmary when they are sick. They work painstakingly to create mentorship programs for newer, younger inmates in the hopes that when they are released, they will not repeat their mistakes. They also want to help these inmates teach their children not to make these mistakes. Their greatest desire, expressed each time we visit, is to prevent other children and teens from making the mistakes they made when they were young. They are extraordinarily talented as well. We saw a production of a play written by one of them entitled Waiting for Change, a play in 3 acts that occurs in a waiting room and is about a group of people who discuss change as they wait to meet with their parole officers. Some of them are artists. Some of the art is sold for fundraising purposes. There are chefs, gardeners, and scholars among them. Some have earned certifications as certified peer counselors, others as certified recovery specialists. When we met with them on the first day, they asked us outsiders what we expected to see when we came. Were we expecting the kinds of scenes depicted in the movies? Did we expect them to be violent, distant, or immature? We told them that we didn't know what to expect before we met them, but now that we knew them, they were nothing like the stereotypes depicted in movies. They lamented the fact that these stereotypes predominate the minds of outsiders in general, in great part because of the literal walls that stand between them and the rest of the world. All the men in this group either have very long sentences or life without the possibility of parole. Many of the life sentences were issued when the men committed crimes as teens, and these men are now all around between the ages of 40 and 60 or more years of age. These sentences are being challenged in many states out of the recognition that the teenage brain is not mature, not fully developed, and that to hold one responsible for actions committed by an immature person for the rest of their lives constitutes cruel and unusual punishment, which is forbidden by the Constitution. The term used to describe their situation is DBI, or death by incarceration. Excuse me. It does not matter how much they have matured over the years or how much of an asset they could be to society. It is as if time froze, and these men are a collection of our wildest nightmares, not real human beings with astounding post-traumatic growth. And because they are locked away in a world that is not accessible to most of us, we cannot grow beyond our nightmares. It is beneficial to both insiders and outsiders to meet one another and to get to know one another. The experience replaces mental images with reality. What price do we outsiders pay for our endorsement of death by incarceration? Well, let's begin with the literal price, the money. According to Bureau of Justice statistics, this country spends a combined $55 billion in incarceration, with an average cost of almost $68,000 per inmate per year. in the state of Pennsylvania. That means if the 11 remarkable men about whom I've been speaking were released, we would save nearly $750,000 every year in incarceration expenses. That does not account for the money that would be saved from the work they would do outside, which would help prevent crime and improve the lives of future generations. Who better than people who have lived the experiences of those most at risk and who know the misery of incarceration to teach others how to avoid the same plight? And who pays this bill? Well, we do, the taxpayers. Is this really how we want to spend our hard-earned tax dollars? I would rather see this astronomical sum be spent paying them for their efforts to prevent crime on the outside. Wouldn't that make more sense? However, in addition to the literal price we pay, we also pay a psychological and spiritual price when we keep men like these incarcerated for life. We are imprisoned by our ignorance, hatred, and fear. We believe we are protecting society from crime when we are only protecting our own false images, and that leaves us poor as human beings. As one insider put it, I wish people could see who we are today rather than who we were in the 30 seconds years ago when we made a dumb decision that changed our lives. I believe it is time to allow transformed individuals who meet reasonable criteria and have served a good deal of their sentence to have a second chance. As they leave their prison, we can also be released from the hell of our own irrational fears. May it be so.